But this time, on an ordinary afternoon, it felt like I had been struck at the very core of my life. Can a phone call turn an ordinary workday into hell? That day started with a call from my wife, Kate, during lunch. She wanted to know when I would be home and wanted to make sure she was back from shopping before I arrived. But when my phone rang at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everything changed forever. What I experienced at that moment would lead to the greatest regret and deepest sorrow of my life. What I heard on the phone left indelible marks on my heart. This wasn't just an act of infidelity, it was a betrayal that shattered trust, love, and dreams. Before diving into my story, if you don't want your life to be turned upside down, now that you've subscribed, let's dive into my story. Monday mornings always begin with a heavy burden. The joy of the weekend gives way to the monotony of work. That morning was no different. It was an ordinary day. During the lunch break, my wife Kate called and asked when I would be home that evening. She said she would go shopping and wanted to be back before I arrived. It seemed like a routine conversation. However, when my phone rang at 2:00, everything changed. I can never forget that moment. The unexpected ringing of the phone while I was finishing a customer database startled me. The silence on the line and the strange noises in the background felt like a warning of something unusual. "Good afternoon, Dave Marshall," I said, but there was no response. There were only whispers and indistinct sounds. I was about to hang up when suddenly Kate's voice echoed. Kate accidentally making calls with her phone was something I was used to, so at first I thought this was another one of those moments. But something was different. The conversations, the whispers, carried a strange excitement. "Don't worry, my husband is at work and I don't need to be home until 5. We have 2 hours. Kate's voice was very clear. This was not a shopping trip. What I heard on the phone forced me to confront the reality that the woman I loved was with someone else. A part of me hoped it was just a misunderstanding, but another more rational part of me knew it was real. My wife was cheating on me. Facing this truth drove me to the brink of collapse. Kate had always been full of love, but now that warmth was mixed with passion for someone else. "Oh my God, you're amazing. My wife can't compare to you," said the man's voice echoing in my mind. Every moment Kate spent with him destroyed our love and trust. I felt too powerless to accept this situation, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore what was happening. "Kate, please don't do this," I whispered as if she could hear me. But the sounds on the phone grew louder. The man's desire for Kate and her surrender to him. Every breath, every moan from Kate caused me pain. My hands began to tremble, and the anger in my heart grew. I threw the phone against the wall. The phone shattered into pieces, scattering everywhere. I sat there battling tears, thinking about how my life had come to this. How would Kate do this to me? We were married, we were happy. But was this happiness only my illusion? The thoughts spinning in my mind merged with the tears streaming down my face. I felt utterly humiliated. Every moment Kate spent with another man further eroded my trust and love for her. I decided to go home and confront her. But at that moment, when my secretary entered the room and told me that Kate had called and that we needed to talk, everything became even more complicated. I went to my secretary's office, picked up the phone, and angrily said, "What's going on, Kate?" "What do you mean?" "Calm down, Dave. I'll explain everything," Kate said. At that moment, the anger inside me was about to explode. But I decided to give her a chance. "I know everything, Kate. I heard what was happening on the phone," I said. But Kate's responses shocked me even more. "Of course I know. I wanted you to hear." Stunned, I asked, "What do you mean? Did you do this on purpose?" Kate replied coldly. "Yes, Dave, I did it on purpose. I found out you cheated on me. So I planned this to make you feel the same pain." "You? How can you be so cold-blooded? Is this a game? Who was that man? Why did you do this?" I asked, struggling with my anger. Kate, in a calm voice, said, "This isn't a game, Dave. But I played with you. You'll never know who that man was. That's your punishment." Those words further fueled the anger inside me. But what if you didn't actually cheat? What if it was all just an act? When she said that, my world was completely turned upside down. I would never know if Kate had truly been with someone else. This uncertainty broke me more than anything else. For months, I lived with this uncertainty. Kate's words and actions only fueled the distrust within me. "Kate, if you truly felt something for me, you wouldn't have done this to me," I said. But Kate's gaze was cold. "You did the same to me, Dave." "This was just a reckoning," she said. Over time, Kate began to open up. At first, it was hard for her to face the guilt she was experiencing. There were moments when she couldn't fully confess the truth to me. But eventually she opened up. "Dave," she said one evening, as the silence settled between us, I really was with that man. At first, I was doing it to make you suffer. But then things got out of control. When I heard this confession, the anger and pain inside me reignited. "Who was that man, Kate? Why did you do this?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. Kate's eyes filled with tears, and she averted her gaze from me. "You don't know him," she said quietly. "It's better that you don't." This uncertainty created a void inside me. I was trying to forgive her, but this unknown deepened the wound within me. "Kate, you need to tell me everything." "I don't want any more secrets," I said. Kate turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "That man was someone I met at work. At first, it was just a flirtation. But then, things progressed. You needed to understand how much you hurt me. Your affair with Debbie destroyed me. You needed to know how humiliated I felt," she said. These words both hurt and made me think. I was trying to understand Kate's wrongdoings, but I couldn't deny how deeply they affected me. After Kate's confessions, the hatred and anger I felt towards that man continued to grow. I needed to find him. One day, by following the clues Kate had mentioned, I discovered who that man was. That night, I decided to confront him. I followed him outside his workplace, tracking him until he entered a dark alley. When I cornered him, seeing the fear on his face soothed the anger within me slightly. "Do you know who I am?" I asked, my voice cold with rage. The man avoided my gaze, retreating in fear. "Forgive me," he said, his voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you." Those words only stoked the anger inside me further. "Hurt me? You destroyed my life," I said, and I swung my fist. The man fell to the ground, looking up at me with shock and pain on his face. "This is just the beginning," I said, my voice filled with fury. At that moment, a sense of satisfaction replaced the anger inside me. I left the man there, lying on the ground, writhing in pain. But that satisfaction was short-lived. When I returned home, it was hard to look Kate in the eye. I never told her what I had done, but the guilt inside me wore me down a little more every day. These events deeply affected our marriage.